Put your party hats on. It's that time of year again. Tomorrow is opening day, and the Brewers are opening up their season with a 3-game set against the Minnesota Twins. The Twins had a good season last year, finishing with a 36-24 record and winning the AL Central by 1 game. They also had a good playoff run, but were eventually knocked out in the ALCS by the Tampa Bay Rays. So, I thought I'd do a little preview of the Brewers opening series. I'm going to talk starting pitchers, and I'm going to highlight 3 players from each team that I think you should keep an eye on. So, let's get to it. Game 1. It's going to be Brandon Woodruff and Kenta Maeda. And let's start on the Brewers side of things. Woodruff had a good year last year. With a 3-5 record in 13 starts, he posted a 3.05 ERA and a .99 whip, which is fantastic. The league average in 2020 was 1.33. He led the team in strikeouts with 91 and held opponents to a .204 batting average. Woody's got a big fastball topping out at about 99 miles per hour, and that's the pitch he's typically going to use in 2-strike counts. Woodruff is a big fly ball pitcher, which is a little dangerous going up against a heavy-hitting lineup like the Minnesota Twins, but I think if he can avoid missing right over the plate, the ball should stay in the ballpark. Woodruff led the crew in just about every major pitching category last year and is the first Brewers pitcher to make consecutive opening day starts since Yovani Gallardo made 5 consecutive opening day starts between 2010 and 2014. For the Twins, it's going to be Kenta Maeda, and boy did he earn it. After being acquired from the Dodgers via trade in February of 2020, Kenta Maeda was easily the Twins' ace last year, going 6-1 in 11 starts while posting a .270 ERA, a .75 whip, holding opponents to a .168 batting average, and striking out 80 batters while walking only 10. This man walked 1.4 batters per 9 innings last year. That's insane. On top of that, he absolutely destroyed the Brewers in 2020. In 2 games against the crew, he pitched 14 2/3 innings, held them to a .120 batting average, striking out 17, and gave up only 3 walks and 3 runs. Not to mention, he no-hit them through 8 innings in one of those starts. Maeda leads with a slider, throwing it 39% of the time, but when he gets into those 2-strike counts, that's when he'll bring out the changeup or the fastball. Maeda is getting his first major league opening day start after Jose Barrios got the call last year, so this first game makes for a great pitching matchup. I am super excited. In Game 2, we got Corbin Burnes going up against Jose Barrios. Corbin Burnes had a career year last year as the starter. After a terrible 2019, Burnes went berserk last season. With a 4-1 record, Corbin put up a .211 ERA, a 1.02 whip, and struck out 88 batters, K-ing 13.3 per 9. He held opponents to a measly 174 batting average and finished 6th in the Cy Young voting despite his season ending early due to an oblique injury. Burnesy's got a killer 1-2 punch with his cutter and a sinker topping out at around 98 miles an hour, and he's got a scary wipeout slider. Using predominantly this trio of pitches, Corbin had a 34.7 whiff rate in 2020, a whole 10% higher than league average. If he can pitch anything like he pitched last season, I think he's going to be one of the favorites for the Cy Young. After pitching opening day for the Twins in 2019 and being named an All-Star, Jose Barrios got the opening day call last season and ended up having a down year. After 12 starts, Barrios ended up with a 5-4 record, a 4 ERA, a 1.32 whip, 68 strikeouts, and an opponent's batting average of .238. Now, even though those numbers aren't terrible, he did lead his team in runs, earned runs, hits, walks, and was second in home runs allowed. Not what you'd expect from 2019 All-Star. In terms of pitches, Barrios mixes it up very well. He's a 4-pitch guy, throwing his curveball 30% of the time, his fastball 26% of the time, his sinker 26% of the time, and his changeup 18% of the time. He's got a good fastball topping out at about 97 miles an hour and will typically go to his curveball in 2-strike counts. On a good day, Jose Barrios can be electric, one of the best in the league, but when he's off, it can be disastrous, so let's hope for the latter. And then in Game 3, we got Adrian Houser versus Michael Pineda. If not Michael Pineda, then it'll probably be Matt Shoemaker. Everything I've been reading is leading me to believe it'll be Pineda. But if it is Shoemaker, he pitched for Toronto last year. He had a pretty subpar year. Started 6 games, he went 0-1, 4.71 ERA, he had a 1.08 whip. So, if it's Shoemaker, that's what you're getting. I believe it'll be Pineda. But let's talk a little bit about Adrian Houser. Despite a bad 2020 and a not-so-pretty spring either, Adrian Houser finds himself in the 3 spot of this rotation. In 11 starts last year, he went 1-6 with a 5.30 ERA, a 1.55 whip. He struck out 44 batters, and opponents hit a whopping 285 off of him. He also led his team in runs, earned runs, and hits. Now, Adrian is a big guy. He's 6'3", 222, and he can touch the upper 90s, so there's no questioning his potential. His most used pitch, his sinker, is good. He had an opponent's batting average of 229 off of it in 2020. However, his 4 other pitches, they just get absolutely rocked. He gets shelled. people hit 351 off his fastball, 333 off his slider, 278 off his curveball, and 375 off his changeup. It doesn't take a genius to realize that that's not going to get it done. Now, obviously, Counsell believes in him because he's giving him every opportunity to perform, and I think he can perform too. But if he doesn't perform, Josh Lindblom is perfectly ready to take his place, so Adrian really has to show up this year. There's not much else to it. And then we have Michael Pineda, who had a shortened season within a shortened season in 2020. Pineda only pitched in 5 games last year because he was finishing the final 36 games of a PED suspension he began serving in September of 2019. But in those 5 games, Pineda went 2-0 with a 3.38 ERA, a 120 whip, 25 Ks, and held opponents to a 248 batting average. He's a 3-pitch guy, mainly throwing a fastball and a slider and sprinkling in a changeup every now and again. Now, despite Pineda being 6'7", 280, he averages only 92 miles an hour on his fastball because of a labrum tear that required surgery back in 2012. Now, that doesn't mean he's not effective, though. He still struck out roughly 8.5 batters in 2019 and 2020. However, because he's basically a 2-pitch pitcher, he tends to get a little more roughed up the second and third time through the order. So let's hope the Brewers can get to him the second time through and get Adrian Houser some run support. We all know he could use it. For my 3 players I want to highlight on each team, let's start off with the Minnesota Twins. Number 1, it's going to be their first baseman, Big Miguel Sano. The man rakes in Miller Park. He just absolutely rakes. In 8 career games there, he's hitting .379, going 11 for 29, and 4 of those 11 hits being extra base hits, 3 homers and a double. Sano is a big home run strikeout guy, which could work in our favor because Brandon Woodruff is a big strikeout pitcher. But if Woody makes mistakes, Miguel Sano is definitely going to make him pay for it. If we can keep Sano tame through the opening series, I think that's really going to serve the Brewers well. Number 2. Luis Arraez. He was 23 last year, entering his age 24 season, and why am I highlighting him? Well, because last season, he hit .321 in 32 games. That's a remarkable number, especially for a 23-year-old kid. On top of that, he hit .354 off right-handed pitching. Now, he's seeing 3 right-handed pitchers from the Brewers in this opening series, so like Miguel Sano, let's keep Luis Arraez tame, because if he gets out of hand, that's bad news for the Brewers. And then lastly, for the Twins, it's their center fielder, Byron Buxton. And it's just because he's, quite frankly, one of the most exciting players to watch in all of baseball, okay? He's got MVP potential. He was first in defensive WAR last year. He finished 16th in the MVP voting, and the guy's almost a 5-tool player if he can just get that average up, but he hits for power, he can throw, he can run, and can he field? My goodness, I mean, he's all over the place in the outfield. He won a Platinum Glove in 2017. Not many balls drop out there in center field, so he's going to be pesky on the offensive and defensive side in this series. Super fun to watch when he's not playing the Brewers, but when he is, kind of annoying. And then for the Brewers, I'm going with the top 3 in that batting order. And we're going to start with the leadoff man, Kolten Wong. He's new to the Brewers, but man, he is not new to Miller Park. He rakes in Miller Park all those years with the St. Louis Cardinals. He's got a career average of .308 in Miller Park and has a .373 OBP. And that's huge for a team that could not score in the first inning last year. Kolten Wong at the top of that order, getting on base, that's going to be a huge offensive upgrade for the Milwaukee Brewers. He also showed a little bit of pop in spring training, hitting 3 leadoff bombs, and then his defense goes without saying. He's obviously the biggest possible defensive upgrade from Keston Hiura. Kolten was a huge addition. He's going to help our offense immensely. Can't wait. Number 2, the MVP, Christian Yelich, and it's just because he's got the chance to return to MVP form this year. He had a terrible season last year, so I think if he can get off to a hot start this year, that's going to be huge for Christian and for the Brewers. He had a very hot spring, so keep that rolling into the season, Christian. Okay, let's get this going. And then lastly, it's going to be Keston Hiura. I think he's the biggest guy on the Brewers to watch for this opening series because he, I think, really has to get off to a hot start. He started off slow in spring training, but definitely picked it up towards the end. And he's going to be a huge part of that offense this season and getting us to the postseason. A lot of eyes are on Keston Hiura, so I think a hot start for him is really, really important. You don't want to fall behind going 1 for 10, 1 for 20 to start the year, okay? Let's get hot. Let's get hot to start the year. And then, of course, he's playing first base. He's playing a new position. Nerve-wracking, but I'm excited to see him play first base because I think he'll do a good job. So yeah, that's my opening series preview. I'm really, really excited for this season. I'm so happy baseball's back. Life is good, man. Life is good. Go Brewers. I love baseball. You already know. Peace.